Oh, I'm going to look right now.
Okay, we're live.
Oh, shit.
Okay, so first of all, the
Oh,
most
yeah.
exciting part of us.
Podcast. Do I need to hold back?
No, the most exciting part of this podcast is that you're here. Like, I'm like, this is like, I literally am more excited for you than I am for like half of our guests that we've had so far. I'm like, Maggie's here.
Oh,
Maggie's here, guys.
make me blush.
From what little I've gotten to talk to you, you are cool people. So, yes,
Yeah.
well, while you see
you.
Shay, open the fridge in the back.
I'm straight up just here admiring the cinematography and not understanding an ounce of the story in the Outpost, so I don't know how much I can contribute.
Hey, cinematography, totally valid meta discussion right there, man.
Dude.
That's all I'm good for.
You know my favorite?
How long can we talk? Oh, go on.
My favorite thing cinematography wise is this trend where visually, like, whenever, like, when Gwen and Garrett kissed and then when they pulled apart that first time, they had Talon move directly in between them, you know what I mean, into their negative space. And then when Garrett
realized enough of the blocking in this show. Now I need to rewatch the last 8 episodes and
the blocking is one of my favorite things because like then they have a complete parallel that's even more obvious where they're, you know, Garrett and Talon were about to kiss during the straight nonsense TM scene.
And she
yeah, and then she just appears and she like, stop in the name of love. She just appears right in between them and it's, you know, it's great.
You know what? She dragged her into gay nonsense, so I'm here for it. It's fine.
And then, look, I don't know, just, oh my god, the way they frame everything. And it's one of those shows that does it fantastically in a way that they're not slapping you in the face with it. Like, they're not like, and this is this and this. No.
Anybody else really tired of this trend, especially in like Netflix shows and stuff, where we get these really intense over-the-shoulder shots of people where you're looking at some other person from behind the other person's shoulder, but now it's so close that you just see a clip of their collar and it's like zoomed into that, like, and I'm like, I don't care.
It's like, I feel like a stalker.
Yeah, I'm like
right over here over their shoulder.
Or when like their head is like, it's like half of their head is in the frame and then the other person's head is right there. And I'm like, I would like it if people weren't trying to force it so much. Everyone's copycatting it.
It does have valid use and perspective, honestly, at times.
Are you talking about like 2 shots for a conversation where it's like one over the shoulder of someone talking and over the shoulder of someone else?
Yeah, but
that's just textbook cinema.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the stuff recently where it's been really tight. So insanely tight.
She's talking about like when the camera's like right here, basically, like
right there. But the thing is, everyone's been using it in moments just artistically instead of using it when it's supposed to be used. Like suddenly people are just using it. I know, but like it just feels weird to me sometimes. Like I was watching, I'll be like, the only time it's ever good is in like Marvel Netflix shows. You know what I mean? Otherwise, it feels forced recently. It feels like everyone's trying to be too intense.
I haven't even noticed that.
I don't know. That's just, I feel like we're veering off topic, but that's just a pet peeve of mine recently. I feel like every single shot.
Is there a topic? I mean, like we're on hiatus.
What I meant is I like that the Outpost doesn't do that. It doesn't repeat shots super intense. Like it has a variation.
And that was actually something I commented on. I think it was episode 2 when Talon was in jail with Withers. I noticed at that point they were bouncing back and forth the conversational camera to the point it did actually jar me but it seemed like they were testing different camera work now that they had these 2 different crews working together because I don't know, it's hard. They were very long and static, I guess you'd say, with their cameras in the pilot. And then in episode 2, all of a sudden, like you have Garrett and Talon talking while she's in jail, and it was like bounce. I'm like, I'm getting dizzy. Then
it was pretty intense, and we were like looking through the bars at her and stuff all of a sudden.
But episode 3, I feel like they found their balance with it, I guess you'd say.
I really like
episode 2. I'm like, I'm getting dizzy trying to follow this conversation. Like,
sometimes I wish they would get closer. You know, like it's almost like they're not close so much that I wish, like that one scene where she did that complete back bend and then shot back up. I wish we would have seen her face more. You know, I wish I like getting up close in fight scenes, and I guess that's because like I've been spoiled by all these recent, Kingsmen where they have that like that dynamic, like they're right next, like it's almost as if you're invisibly moving through the fight instead of watching it from a static plane, and I like that style a lot. But like they did that in episode 2. They started instead of like it was really static planey. We were just watching from one position, right, in every fight. And then in episode 2, we suddenly were moving with the choreography, especially during that bar fight. And I really liked that. And they started doing that more. So
I'm trying to find something. It was driving me insane, and I can't remember what episode it was. But we were talking about how like the jumping around in scenes.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting because they definitely did change the editing style in terms of conversations, and I like really noticed it in I think it was the Book of Names. I think it was 106. It was it would have been 106. It was when Gwen told Talon who she actually is. The way they cut around her conversation, where it was just the back of Gwen's head and Talon reacting to what she was saying at one point. It felt so weird because it didn't seem like Gwen was talking with the way that shot worked. If that makes any sense.
Yeah,
and that was definitely them working around that like quick cuts back and forth of conversation. But like it just didn't work at that point, and it's been driving me insane thinking about it. I was trying to find another thing. If I can find it, I can't remember what episode it was.
Also, pardon me turning my camera and mic on and off. I'm like in the middle of dinner. So it's like, here, let me serve food in front of you. I'll be back in a minute.
I went like super, I couldn't get over it. There was one shot, or the scene where Janzo is healing Talon post her getting stabbed by the creature whose name I can't pronounce. They broke the rule of thirds in the medium shots. It was the shot of Talon laying on his bench that they sort of panned across. The medium shot of Janzo from that same angle. But then they went around behind Janzo to get the coverage of Talon talking. And it completely warped the whole space. And I don't know like why they decided to do that, because that was textbook rule of thirds. I can't remember what episode it was. This is gonna drive me nuts.
People have been breaking the rule of thirds more than ever now, though,
Yeah, it just depends on the usage. I think in that scene, it wasn't really necessary. Like, when you break the rule of thirds, you break the rule of thirds point a certain feeling, like they do in The Shining, during the bathroom scene, where Jack is talking to the old caretaker when he's in that weird, like, zone.
It's generally used to knock you out of a space or make you feel derealized, I guess you'd say, if you're choosing
unless
to break that.
It's Mad Max and you're center framing everything, every single thing, so that you have a continuous endless line of action. Like that's almost to where you don't even need the rule of thirds anymore, because like the rule of thirds
180 rule. Do you know what the 180 rule is?
Remind me.
The 180 rule is when
people say different things for different stuff.
Of action, you're on a plane of 180. Like, it's not a 360 plane. So if you cross that line of 180,
the line of,
create a jarring effect for the viewer in the space which you created. So like when they have the wide of Talon and Janzo and the medium of Janzo from one side, but then the coverage of Talon from the other, I just covered my whole camera doing that. It creates like some weird visual,
like they're suddenly returning around the whole scene they'd set up.
You're warping the room and the angle, and it just it dishinges the space that you're observing, basically. It unhinges what you're looking at. And like I said, that can be chosen, like you can choose to break that rule, but when you're choosing that, it's usually supposed to be a conscious decision, such as, like I said, derealizing the viewer from what they're looking at, if it's something fantastic or horrifying or something that's really supposed to rattle or confuse the mind. Whereas that is literally that one, I fully admit, I looked at and I was kind of like, is there some meta reason behind this? Because I just can't figure that out. Like,
I'm just trying to find the shot so I know I'm not going.
It would be in the first 3 episodes, I know, because I made a fan video.
I could swear it was Book of Names.
Unless it was a different healing of her. Is it?
It was after what's his face died.
The Smith?
Yeah, the Smith dies. Yeah, there goes.
Okay, then a different healing. Okay.
Sorry, I'm trying to find it. I might be crazy. No, it's a different one. Never mind. You're probably right. It's probably episode 3, and I'm looking in the wrong spot. This is why you don't binge watch the entire show.
Yeah, it blurs together, and you're like, I don't know what happened. It all happened at once.
Whereas my ridiculous brain is like, it's in the first 3.
Yeah, I think it's Mistress and the Worm.
Yeah.
The best episode.
I'm pretty sure it is Mistress and the Worm, because the reason I remembered that was that scene kind of got in my head too, because
man,
I used that in my old when I did that fan vid back when only the first 3 episodes were out.
Where is
and
it?
Yeah, I remember going over that scene and actually being like, "What do I even use here?" Like,
sucks.
I'm going insane. I cannot find the scene.
Did I freeze?
What the hell? Maybe it's not Mistress and the Worm. Maybe it's.
It might be episode 2 then.
At this point, I'm like, if the OT4 doesn't happen, what's the point?
I did Janzo and Talon so hard it hurts.
Oh, I love them so much.
Episode,
yeah.
Janzo pulling his fucking arm, or pulling Talon's arm around him.
Yes.
It was so great.
It was.
But like Garrett being like, God damn it.
Panzo, I'm sorry, like, Garrett's my boy, and Garrett and Gwen are cute, and the OT4 is a neat idea, but I don't think they're setting that up. Tanzo for the win, man. Like,
they're for sure not setting up an OT4.
Yeah.
Maybe an OT3. It kind of gave me Shannara Chronicle vibes a little bit, where it was like the lead female has like male and the female love interest. I'm still trying to find this fucking shot.
In my mind, anything that's in its first season, it never sets its roots down. You know what I mean? So I'm like, this may be what you're heading for, but I'm just gonna keep thinking about what I want to think about, and I guess
I'd still totally ship the hell out of it. Like, I like the idea of it. I think if it happened, there would have to be a lot of focus on Garrett and Janzo getting over their differences.
Yeah.
Because like,
but that is almost like one of the best parts, like one of the most interesting dynamics in the show.
That'd make it worth it. Like, I'd be there for that.
That should happen, like, regardless. That should be, like, you know, them becoming, because it's almost already happening. Like, there are definitely seeds for it that could grow into something, them at least being, you know, frenemies or bros, you know. Like, they could have, like, the thing is, they're both jealous of each other. It's not just Janzo. Garrett doesn't feel that smart all the time. It's pretty obvious that he's like,
I think there is like an inherent trust too, because when he got bit, I don't know what to call it.
Yeah, they do, but they do, like, they have a respect. They, you know, the thing about it is like basically the top level is, you're different from me, but you're also a dude, and you threaten my idea of masculinity because you represent my insecurities, and that's for both of them. Like, Garrett is like, I can swing a sword, but I'm probably not the most smart person in the world, right? So that's and like, he obviously, you know, like, so.
I found this.
And he's a commoner. He feels like he doesn't have a place by Gwen's side. He feels like he can't help her until besides getting her onto the throne. He feels like he wouldn't be a good ruler, and I feel like that's because he feels like he just isn't cut out for it. Whereas, you know, Janzo has a brain, and that's really obvious. And not only does he have a brain, everyone comes to him and trusts him with their problems that can't be solved in Garrett's way. So Janzo isn't the only one with insecurities here. You know what I mean? His are just the most obvious because they're the most typical, and he's like really bitter. He's a bitter dude. Let's be real. He's a very bitter person.
I'm sorry. There are so few people in the audience that are actually a Garrett in real life to have his insecurities. So Janso is the
It's kind of my least favorite part of Janso is whenever he gets really bitter and he's kind of like I get it. I'm honest, but I'm also like, he's a little vindictive. The thing, I love it, but because literally I see his mother in him. Not only in the way that he like lies to Talon sometimes, and like whenever he needs to like try and manipulate people, he literally starts to like act like his mom, but like not obviously on like a huge degree, but he does emulate a lot of like, obviously he was raised by her, and he also has some of her viciousness, I think, some of her kind of,
I was gonna say, I really like that actually about him, because I think it stops him from being a bit of a stereotype character.
Yeah, it makes him more complex. Like he's kind of hiding. He is hiding this rage. Like it's a coping mechanism. Like not only did he pick it up from her, but it's also like how it's his way of like dealing with what he does to her. So it's like a cycle. And it was, one of the best parts of the most recent episodes was, when Janso slammed his hand down on that mirror and he was basically like, "Fuck you, lady." I'm done with you.
Was everything.
Yeah, that was great.
She was like, "My boy's learning." That was I loved that.
But also, like, I love that, and I love that was a non-typical response. It's not what we expected from her, and it was great. And it also shows exactly that not only does she know what she does, she justifies it just like I thought she does. She's one of those people. Totally reminds me of my parents. Glad they aren't here right now. Fuck you, Dad. Anyway, we all have daddy or mommy issues. Let's be real. Janso has such mommy issues. It's not even real. But like, she's one of those people who thinks that what she does is for the better. Tough love. She thinks that, but like, she justifies taking out her problems on him as tough love. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
As toughening him up. And then not only that, she takes credit for him growing up. She takes credit for that, not him. She's taking the credit. She was proud not of him, but of herself, not of him. I could tell. Fuck the mistress, honestly. Like, I want to see her become I like her. She's, but also I don't.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I like her. I ship her with Marshall Withers a lot. I like them because they're birds of a feather. They really seem to care about each other, despite being they're so alike but so different. Like, they have this understanding that's like this intimacy that I'm like, this is great. Y'all should definitely get married. But except you never will, because you don't believe in commitment, obviously.
Yep.
They never will get married, but they will definitely be man and wife for all of eternity. Like, they're like mentally married. You know what I mean? Like, open relationship, obviously, because they do what they want, but they have a bond that will never break. Like, it's really interesting, and I like it. It's one of my favorite parts of the show. Withers is one of my favorite parts of the show, and I didn't expect that. He's so interesting. You know what I mean?
Sorry, I'm like staring at the scene and trying to decide if it is in fact breaking the rule of thirds.
You're like, what's going on here?
The panning from the wide shot negates it.
Cassie,
okay.
Who's like your favorite minor character?
What would be minor? I guess at this point probably Withers.
Yeah, he's so like he's just messed up, but we understand.
He's like just ridiculous at this point.
It's like, yeah, he's such a hypocrite. It's like, what I think at this point is it's kind of like what happened with her maid, whatever, her servant.
Hmm.
It feels like he's getting old, but he's still a soldier. He's so paranoid. He's so battle hardened. He's so constantly on edge about all this murder and death and stuff. And about, I feel like he lost himself and it was an accident, he thinks, because he lost control of himself and he's so used. He thought that was the one thing he'd never do, is lose control of himself. And I don't think he knew how to handle that. I don't think, I don't count it as necessarily an accident. It was a moment of adrenaline, and human fallacy, but not an accident. Exactly. He just feels like that's not who he is, but it is. He's not infallible.
Yeah.
was so funny when he was like, you buried her in a garden. What the fuck is wrong with you? And Dano was like, I was not cut out for this. Dano's great though.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, I should be paying attention. I'm literally sitting here trying to figure out how they could have shot that scene so it didn't break the 180 rule.
Maybe they just don't give a fuck anymore, Maggie. Have you considered that? Have you considered that no one cares anymore?
I need to stop giving a fuck.
Trump isn't president. You think that some cameraman in Utah gave a fuck? He was taking... Dude, Jessica Green was half shirtless in that scene. I don't think anybody was paying attention to the rule of thirds. I'll be honest.
180 rule.
Either of
180.
Either of those rules were out the window.
Time. I have no problem with the rule of thirds being broken, but the 180 rule establishes a space, and it's like the number one thing to making a film realistic. So
yeah,
fight me. I care about the 180 rule.
Don't worry, I care too. The rule of thirds is definitely easier to break because, like,
the rule of thirds people break all the time. All the fucking time.
But the thing about it, literally, you know that I'm. As my story earlier told you, like, I'm a rebel by nature, but then I had to, once I realized what I wanted to do, I had to reconcile that with, I want to learn and I want to, you know, become someone who makes films. So I guess I better, you know, try and do this. But like one of my favorite teachers of all time was one of my English teachers. And like, he started the first day and he was like, so guess what? Here are all the rules of grammar, and he spent the whole day going through all the rules of like grammar and sentence structure again, even though, you know, we already knew that stuff. But he was like, so here are all the rules, and then at the very end, he was like, and I want you to follow them unless you're good enough to break them, because if you're good enough to break rules, you should do it for sure. Mm-hmm. But you should only break rules if you break them well. That's what makes it okay.
Mm-hmm. And I just point behind like the guidelines, like rule of thirds or stuff in grammar.
You have to learn those rules. The thing about the rules and breaking them for a good impact is, you know, why I took that to heart is because you have to learn the rules in order to know how to really break them.
Mm-hmm.
Which is like something I am intimately aware with, as I'm first and foremost a poet. I don't know if anyone knows that about me because I don't post my poetry online except for everything. I know
about you because your poetry is really good.
Yeah, but like first and foremost, I'm a poet. So breaking rules, but well, is like my number one thing. Mm-hmm. So like, at least they didn't break it horribly. Like obviously it could be better, but could have been worse.
Oh, I mean, yeah, no, it still worked. And I was like sitting here thinking about how the only other way they could have covered it, the way they had it framed, and the way they had her blocked to turn and look. Mm-hmm. At Dano, they couldn't have gotten her coverage unless they shot overhead. And that would have stayed within 180, but it would have been a bitch to set up. So.
It would have been weird. Like, why the sudden overhead shot, right?
Well, overheads happen a lot when people are lying down. That's not an uncommon shot. If there's someone lying
You know, I almost like it because...
Librarians, the scene where
Jenkins dies. Yeah.
It's definitely overhead. And that's the only way they could have shot that and had it within a 180 and still have him address everyone on the table.
But I think it's more intimate and between them as two characters to do it the way they did. You know what I mean? Because that's my favorite thing about that moment is how they were basically... Isn't that when they were making fun of the mistress? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. They were basically like, LOL, she's dumb.
That was a cute scene. I get like half that scene because I was here for it.
Yeah, so for sure... Yeah, I definitely, even if they had done it overhead, yeah, it would have been a great full body shot of Jessica Green, but it wouldn't have felt like
a full body. I just mean like it
even a half, you know,
overhead.
It wouldn't have felt as intimate if it was looking just at her. It feels like it's coming. But that's the moments when those close-ups are good. It's when it's, you know, it's a really. What I hate is that everyone's using it for completely tense moments now instead of intimate moments, and I like it when it's used for better, you know. You know, I hate when everything has to be negative because I notice that. I notice when it's only used for when that kind of intimacy is only used for negative tense times. I don't want to feel that. I'm a very empathic person. Can we like back up You know what I mean? Like, I hate that. It's because I don't want to be that close during a tense moment. I don't like that. Obviously, the director chose otherwise, but I would rather be across the room. You know what I mean?
That's
personally.
Why the close-up is the most powerful tool in cinema.
Because I don't like it.
Just gonna pull out my whole cinema studies education right now is because
it makes me want to stop watching whatever I'm watching.
The close-up allowed us to be intimate with characters and really see who they are as humans, and it was like a step emotionally.
What was the first oh my gosh, I know what you're talking about because I know the black and white Joan of Arc movie that established how crazy a close-up could be during her trial. That's when like one of the most intense close-ups was first done, and it was like her emotions. Everyone was like, yo, this was a lot. So that was when they were like, wow, that's a useful tool. But I really don't like it when it's always tense because I just I already have enough tension in my life. Leave me alone.
I'm actually trying to find close-up stuff in my notes now because I know it's here somewhere.
You're like, let me look.
What class would have been?
I love the really intense close-ups of Talon's eyes sometimes, like when she was looking at people's wrists. Those are good because her eyes are so emotive. It's great. I love, what I love about Talon the most is they allow her to enjoy hurting other people, especially those, because they allow her to have that human feeling of satisfaction. Like when that demon rose up and told Withers what was what and saved her, she had that, kind of dark grin, like she was enjoying it, but at the same time, she has like when she first saw the Plaguelings and she was back inside the wall and she couldn't even look at Garrett because she was just so upset that those people were trapped like that. And her, she cares so much, and she still cares, right? And she's tried to block off that part of herself, obviously, because she keeps getting hurt, especially after her boyfriend just died. So, but she still cares so much. It's like her natural response is to either kill people or care about them a lot. Which is why she seems to avoid people, because she's like, I'm either going to love you and imprint on you and lose you, or I'm probably going to kill you. So that's why she's like, Janzo, this is a thin line. You're walking. This is a thin line you're walking, buddy. And he's like, I will walk it gladly.
My God. His, obvious spoken out crush on her is my favorite thing in the universe.
And I like how
he talks about it openly. How much he loves her.
The minute he saw her, he was like, babe.
Perfect talent.
It's like, that one is mine.
Okay, but I liked how everyone is convinced that Garrett and Talon are a thing when they literally have the least, they have a lot of chemistry, but they have the least textual spoken chemistry. You know what I mean? Janzo and Talon have spoken about their feelings. Garrett and Gwyn have spoken about their feelings. Gwyn and Talon have been spoken about and suggested as a couple in canon, in text between characters, more than Garrett and Talon actually was at one point. You know what I mean? It's only Gwyn that is bringing this up now. It's only Gwyn who's like, you like her, don't you? It's because she could tell. Because, you know what I mean? So it's almost hilarious to me but it's really, it speaks to Jessica and Jake's raw, they're the minute their eyes meet, everyone's like, yeah, they're gonna fuck. They really pulled that off. You know what I mean? They do have an undeniable chemistry, but they haven't really fucking talked about it. They've talked about everything else but that, whereas everyone else has talked about everything else. You know what I mean? Janzo is actually the only person that Talon has outright said that she is interested in. You know what I mean? So that's why, I'm not that bothered when she supposedly uses him as a pawn to Garrett. And I'm like, no, she kind of chose him in the first place. But, she's not closing herself off completely to a relationship, I feel that, it might not lead to, that might not, obviously it probably wasn't the original setup, but there's something about this show where they have they have someone of emotional intelligence. They have someone who isn't I'm just going to say it, someone who isn't a fucking idiot. You know what I mean? They have someone who isn't a fucking idiot on that team. I don't know if it's the writers. I don't know if it's Dean Devlin. I don't know if it's some director. I don't know who's the genius. I don't know if it's, what's her name? Jennifer? Maybe it's Jennifer.
Jennifer.
It's probably Jennifer. If there's a woman in charge, she's probably the one.
Jennifer. I don't know. I wouldn't put that.
Yeah, that is kind of an assumption. Just saying.
I mean,
not to say men don't have emotional intelligence.
What I'm seeing from the writing, just from the writing ground up, there were only 10 episodes written to start.
Yeah.
And that's not a huge amount. From what I can see, they just went, Kynan and Jason went
and wrote it.
They went and made very complex interpersonal dynamics out of the gate. And those interpersonal dynamics might lead potential for change in the future if we do get a season 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, right, it doesn't feel locked down.
Right now, what I'm seeing, for example, end of season 1, if I God forbid, but if we only get season 1 of The Outpost, Endgame is going to be Talon's strong, independent woman who doesn't need any man or woman. Like that.
Nothing will be really official, obviously, I think, by the end of season 1. But that's the thing, they're not rushing it. They're not, which is good because they're not taking time away from the real plot to talk about convoluted romance when they're really letting things happen in kind of a natural time and a natural tone. And someone said that Talon was acting like a 3rd grader, and I'm like, no, she's acting like a normal fucking person. She's like, it's almost like people won't let her be like, like a normal girl. Like, it's almost like it offends them that she's actually attracted to Jens over Garrett. Yeah. And I'm like, that's kind of like annoying to me that she can't be attracted to men like any other woman, but also be a badass. Like, I don't see. Xena could do it. Xena spent all her time, sexing up men and women, and everyone respected her. So what's the difference now? Well, I guess, not everyone did, because Xena did get a lot of shit. It wasn't obviously it didn't go over perfect, but they were strong. You know what I mean? So I just feel like Talon is the same way. I feel like she has, she has control over her own agency. We don't need to, yeah. Everyone's gone, and we're just like, yeah. And Cassie's just like, yeah, I'm listening. I'm here.
No, I had to mute for a second because Shay was about to explode on the dogs. Like, go lie down.
Mood. You were like, you saw it before it happened, and you were like, mute. Big mood. My dog isn't inside right now because he would be pestering me, but I love him. Lately, he's been getting up on my bed. He's just gotten ballsy. He's like, fuck it, I'm just gonna wake you up. And I'm like, stop! It's my bed. Sorry.
But no, I mean, honestly, I would say I do feel like the complicated dynamic and everything was planned from the gate. The ability to render it so effectively is kudos to the actors who played the characters who have taken on their adaptation and are able to vibe so well with each other. But I don't see it as an active change, because by the time we were watching the show, they had already filmed episodes, up to 5 or 6 or something? So, I mean, by the time we were putting in our reviews, they were already filming episode 6 or 7. So it wasn't any kind of drastic change.
Yeah, so it's something that's been there from the beginning. When this most recent scene, when Gwen and Talon had that talk where they were like, that was one of the best scenes I've ever seen in my life. And if anyone's listening to this in the future who's questioning how much they like The Outpost, if anything, I think watching this whole show has been worth it for that fucking scene. Because I've never seen that ever. I've never seen someone just, say it like it is and not be a dumb idiot. You know what I mean?
One thing I do want to say that I kind of do hope they take on board is, a lot of the traits we see in Janzo are Anon's acting choices. He loved the character and the dialogue, but what we see is his rendition, the thing like his eyebrows and the this and the that, and his very humble quirks and things that actually read kind of ASD. Those were his choices. So I'm kind of hoping, because of how well it's received, that moving forward, even in the script, we may see some active ASD coding for the character rather than
they might be able,
because he represents it so well already, and it's so well received that I hope they pick up that ball and run with it if we get a season 2.
Yeah, especially since it's a fantasy show in, whatever setting. Like, it would be interesting if they kind of, if anything, broadened their world building and, like, came up with maybe, it's like, obviously their terms for stuff like that would be different, right? So they probably know he's different from, like, they probably have some way of expressing that. Janzo, if he knew, he would have some way of.
Well, and I don't think it even needs to be labeled. I think
it doesn't need a label, but
this is going to sound really weird, and this applies to a lot of areas of TV. But I feel like, especially in the last decade of television, people have gotten spoiled to everything having to be Eli 5 to them on screen before they take it to canon. Literally, it has to happen and be said and spoken exactly this way before they accept it. And I'm like, y'all, these storytellers have
that's bad storytelling.
Exactly. And I'm like, guys, there are more ways than to deadass be like, by the way, so-and-so is gay or autistic or this or that, or so-and-so is screwing
it's like
so-and-so.
With the librarians, they didn't need to talk directly. Cassandra pretty much was not entirely straight from the very beginning, especially if you listen to their video commentaries in the very first season. She definitely was not straight, but it's not something that needed to be outright talk. She didn't need a coming out scene, some dramatic. Don't hate me for this, but the Alex coming out thing in Supergirl was one of my least favorite plot lines in the whole world for gay wise, because I thought it was so random and so did not fit her character. It didn't make any sense with her family or her character or her experience in life. And I was like, this is weird. I like them making her gay, but her coming out and being just really upset about it when everyone else had no problem with it. I'm like, this doesn't feel realistic at all.
I think part of the problem is, I hate to put it like this, and I may get flayed by my own community, but I feel like the LGBT community has kind of made our own bed and needing everything to have to be that dramatic and explained, because we're tired of queer bait too. So
no, I think it's because I think it's also, it's because it's the straight people. Basically, when LGBT people try to go to the industry and try to get their stories through, straight people are blocking it, and they're like, no, we don't want to hear this, but only the tragedies and the inspiration porn get through. You know what I mean?
Okay, wait. Let me put the perfect example of this out there. So the perfect day to discuss this on this day.
You're on this day.
On this day, September 18th, 2018, on the 10th anniversary of Castiel walking into Supernatural, which set off the biggest fleet of ships to ever sail on the internet.
Don't even remind me.
Okay, there are three Bert and Ernie jokes at this point among Supernatural community, right?
Don't stop me.
Okay, oh Bert and Ernie's author came out today and was like, by the way, yes, I do feel that they were gay.
Just fucking shut that shit down.
I know. So here's the thing.
Mad about it.
But the thing is, that author is queer, and he's like, basically, I base them off of me and my husband. I base them off of my husband. And then Sesame Street came out and was like, no. So that's what I'm talking about, in the difference between good faith writing of queer elements from queer authors that are still trying to get some form of representation out there and are getting shut down by their overhead. By the way, I don't know if you saw Misha Collins use that to subtweet half the internet today. Y'all need to go check his wall.
I actually did see that.
He was oh wow, interesting.
Oh my God, Misha, you're gonna make so many people angry, honey. Stop.
He just subtweeted half the internet, in 280 characters or less.
What a magic man.
But here's the thing, that's what we're talking about there on that kind of representation issue, because there are queer authors that are getting out there and they're like, yeah, I'm writing it to be gay-ish and stuff, as far as they'll let me, at least, and it's hard to contextualize it in XYZ setting. And then a studio will come out and be like, screw you, no, straight because. And
speaking of the devil.
What?
I just mentioned Xena, and that's the biggest historical example of a TV show that was made by queer people and was queer subtextually only because, they couldn't, they basically were writing 2 shows. One for the straight audience and one for the gay audience.
Hashtag Supernatural 2. Let's be real. Let's look at
I stopped
Bobo
watching
Berries.
that, so I wouldn't know. I had to save myself from that hell.
Bro, Bobo has explicitly, a openly gay author, has been like, yeah, I intentionally made Castiel parallel to Colette, which is Kane's wife, for Dean. Yeah. Yeah, I wrote them giving mixtapes to each other. Yeah. And everyone's like, but no.
I don't want to get into Supernatural. I gave up on the show because of a lot of that, because I think some of the stuff they did, it may have been subtextual, but it wasn't textual enough for me to be okay with it.
Exactly. But that's just it. You're also left with, at what point are the authors fighting to actually try to put something in when they are queer authors? And what point are you running into queer bait versus studio shutdown? And I think that's a whole thing that gets kind of missed discussing this in the industry.
You also have to think about the levels. I know we got into this discussion because of what, I can't pronounce his name. Anand? Is that how you say it?
Anand, I think.
Anand does with Janzo. He acts in a way that is autistic characteristics for Janzo. But, if we're talking Supernatural, Jensen Ackles isn't exactly the best person to want to play a bisexual man or a man.
Even if he's done it before with Blonde, but he's still kind of
so it's even if writers are doing that, and writers weren't doing that with Outpost, they probably didn't write Janzo and mind him with autistic characteristics, and it just happened to be that way. So it's kind of a reverse situation. I think there's levels to it, and there's always other people involved in terms of directors and actors. So
I don't even know if Anand's
that's where the concept depth of the author does come in on a level, because there are so many levels, especially in film of all areas, that first it has to go through a script, and then it goes through a director's vision, and then it goes through the actors, and then it goes through the editors. And by the time you get the end product, what you have could be completely disassociated from the original script.
Thanks for stating all of my deepest fears about this industry in one sentence.
Well, that's what film is. Film is a cumulative, collaborative medium. So everything that you see on a screen went through 20 fucking hands.
Unless someone's an asshole.
It was there. Not even. You can't have the number.
It's not physically possible. Even if someone's an asshole, it's not physically possible to do it yourself.
Could direct, write, star in, but they can't do more than that. Or produce. I guess there was some movie I saw with what the hell's her
Polar
name?
Express.
No, what the fuck?
Because even if you write, direct, produce, and star in, there's still other people that's going to be there running it with you.
I was
it's impossible to be alone.
What the cinematographer does can affect how people view the story. The lighting that happens with the gaffer, there's a million things going on with that. Sound design.
Oh yeah.
There's so many factors that not one person can control on every single level. And it's a lot.
And that's what makes discussion on anything for any kind of representation, be it disabilities or pretty much anything that's not painted on a person. I hate to put it like that, be it what they wear or what they say or anything like that. It's all, and even hell, what they wear can be changed depending on what the costume department gets in their head. So, or the wardrobe department. So it's really frustrating to discuss too, because there are honest periods, removing, be it Outpost or Supernatural or Bert and Ernie from the discussion. There are genuine times when authors or even producers of some caliber do try to go and put out good faith groundwork of representation as best they can, but are somewhere along the way shut down. I consider that.
If it's a producer, it's usually a network that will shut them down. I know that. Exactly. If a producer wants something and there's no network shutting them down, that it will 100% happen if a producer wants it to happen, and they're one of the only producers.
Yes, exactly. But a network will shut something down.
Dean Devlin has last word on Outpost, 100% as executive producer. So I know if he wants something, it's gonna happen.
Oh, definitely. with Dean. But I'm just, there are times a network will be like, no, you're not going to do that. This XYZ
but
show
like
is
the
our
CW,
legacy, our biggest moneymaker, and you don't touch that or we will implode. And that's not going to happen. So there are, again,
they have and all that. It can be complete another BS.
Okay, but like as far as the possibility, that's the thing where it comes to the question, because like the CW definitely, like, for its bigger shows, it might not risk it with bigger characters, you know what I mean? But for its smaller shows, it seems almost to have a mandate out of trying to increase its queer audience.
I hate to put it like this, but it's a way to build the shows at that point. When you are at a certain level of small, being big and risky will get you exposure. You'll get to
like
get
Winona
articles, and you get that coverage out there about they're doing this, that, and the other thing. They've turned this into queer
representation. Let's be real. Winona Earp would not have got any more seasons past season 1 if they had not had those gays. Let's be real. Like,
exactly. Whereas once you get to something that's the network's like biggest prize pony, all of a sudden it's like, nope, we can't be controversial. We're stable. We're pulling the money. We're pulling everything. The second this goes this way, it all goes downhill because someone starts rioting.
But also, it's also about the evolution of what's, being. Here's the thing. It's about what lines are being pushed when. Like how we hear about how Gene Roddenberry was like not a homophobe, but he just didn't feel like it would fly to have any. He was like, let's have, a lot of people talk like back and forth about how he felt about different things. And they're like, oh, but George Takei said he said this, but, and he was like, basically a lot of people didn't do stuff probably because they felt they couldn't without risking it. But now it's about like the first person to push the envelope for certain things.
It's getting better, but it's still risky. Let's look at the current presidency. I'm not going to state specific politics, but I will leave that there.
Also,
and that kind of shows the state of our nation on any of these topics. So it's not exactly without risk.
You literally we've already seen the Trump response in television. Fox News getting rid of every single show that wasn't about white straight men.
Mm-hmm.
Like instantly, just flush. Like literally, the only reason the Orville is still on Fox and it's probably going to get canceled because Seth MacFarlane has been outright talking smack about Fox and everything.
Oh yeah,
he's been donating all of his Fox paychecks to NPR to outright spite Fox. So the Orville will probably be canceled off of Fox soon enough. But the only reason it's not been canceled is because he's the main character, a white cis man, and he's Seth MacFarlane. That's the only reason it hasn't been canceled already. But after season 2, I doubt they will let him stick around. I doubt they will let him stick around. Oh my gosh, the way he's been outright.
And that's just, it's gotten better as a culture. We are far ahead of where we were 10 years or 20 years ago or whatever. But there's still obviously systemic problems in our country.
Oh, yeah.
And when it comes down to it, whether we like it or not, and yes, it's a collaborative art form, and it's an art, and it's storytelling. It's a business.
Okay, but you also have to understand that business, and especially television, does not only react with this thing. We also react in the opposite way. Everything, increasing lately in extremeness means that everyone's reaction, the Will and Grace just coming back specifically because of Trump,
it's a pendulum.
We are responding back.
This is actually something that Shay and I have discussed before. Politics are a pendulum because you swing a little further this way, and then someone swings a little further this way, and then it's like a pendulum that has some sort of amp on it because you just get more and more ridiculous with each swing, and next thing you know, the swing's going upside down, and left is right and up is down.
But it definitely causes intense reactions in the media in both directions. And every time someone reacts, someone else reacts back. So, all of this queer media that's been coming out recently is almost in explicit outright response to no, we will not be silenced before anyone attempts to silence us. Mm-hmm. We will, and people of color as well are oh no, we're not going to be silenced. You're going to hear us before the lights go out, at least. Right?
It helps that a lot of shows, like you're saying, are coming in with diverse characters and diversity up front. So it's not like something they can bring in later and have be shut down. It's like, no, if you want this show or you think the show is good, this is a part of it and it's not going away.
Like Siren, but like
Yes.
Siren did it so well because they brought in not only diversity in like the way that they actually have Native characters in Washington State. Wow! Finally, I swear to God, I live in Washington State, and me waiting for Native characters in a TV show set in this state has been hell.
Mm-hmm.
It's been hell. Like, literally, we mostly have Native Americans in, like, the entire Pacific Northwest. That's mostly who's here. That and, like, Asian people. There's not that many white people. There's even less black people. Like, that's just how it is up here. But shows never represent that. It's always just a bunch of white people that don't even speak with our accent. Especially when it's in Seattle. Like, no. Trust me. Everyone there is Asian. Like...
I kind of love that.
It's just how it is, and not even like the same kind, like from all over, because it depends on where you are, is where different places had huge migrations in America. Like, you know, like that's why in America, location is like hugely culture based because of where people immigrated from or were, you know, dragged from Africa and stuff, you know, slavery.
I'm kind of on the same level with Florida because, like, obviously we're known for like the old white conservatives.
Yeah.
And like specifically Cuban and like Puerto Rican.
Yeah, but those are all the people that moved there later to retire. The people who are actually there are like Cubans. Yeah.
So many fucking Hispanic people. And it's never accurately represented in anything Florida. It's always old white people.
That's because those are the people who are the loudest and never shut up.
Yeah.
But that's why like shows like Siren are so great. But not only did they come in with that, they obviously didn't explicitly state the polyamory right away. And you're like, is this a love triangle? But then they're like, no, it's not. You know, but like, so it built its foundation for what it was planning in the first season without crossing the line too much to get them canceled. You know what I mean? Which is something I think this show is doing. Like, no matter what they decide, they're basically just setting up all these foundations. They're laying all these bricks down, but they're not building the house just quite yet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, they're just pouring the concrete, making it sturdy so that whatever they choose has something to be based off of.
And to fall back on. So people still have something to like.
Mm-hmm.
Even if there's elements that they don't like. I don't like. Well, I mean, I think I wanted to mention we were talking about, like, wow, my brain's gone. About things being canonically stated. I think Min mentioned it.
Yeah.
Some people will only count something as canon if it has been said by a character. But, like, we're never going to hear the words that, like, Janzo is autistic. Because that doesn't...
Especially when it's another world.
Universe. Yeah. Like,
yeah, it's like, that's not how it works.
In this universe, there isn't medical science like that. Like, sure, he can be autistic. We're never going to hear a character say he's autistic because that doesn't exist.
They might say he's not like everyone else. He's not, you know, like, they might say he's, you know, like, they might have a way of expressing that, but they're not going to say he's autistic.
If they were, they would have done that episode 1, and they haven't.
Yeah. It's pretty much just something that's obvious, you know? It's pretty much just it's pretty much just who he is, which is the truth. Just like the way that, you know, Gwen is clearly not straight. It's kind of just obvious. At least Gwen. At the very least. At the very least, Gwen is definitely not straight.
Honestly, the straightest of the bunch, it's between Garrett and Janzo for me. Like, I
definitely don't think Janzo is 100% not attracted to Garrett because he literally talks about Garrett as if he's like mad, but also, you know, he literally talks about Garrett as if he can't decide whether or not he wants to be with him or be him. You know what I mean? He talks about Garrett the way I talked about this girl in high school. Like, I recognize it completely. I'm like, I'm with you, bud.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I definitely don't think Janzo is completely straight. But he's definitely attracted to women. And it's almost annoying when people...
He's on Talon. Because I was like, that's straight boy shit. But, yeah, no, I still see what you mean.
I like Janso's attraction to Talon because it shows he can be outright attracted to someone without, one, forcing his feelings on her, or two, making her uncomfortable. You know what I mean? Like, he goes out of his way to make her not uncomfortable. Like, he puts her first, not him. He just enjoys being around her whatsoever. Which is like, he's like, and which is why she's attracted to him, which is why she's like the one, she's on, like, obviously she like, we can totally take canon evidence to say that she's attracted to both Garrett and Gwyn at this point, but her attraction to Janso was the only textual one that she's at least felt comfortable enough and safe enough to explore, because, you know, after everything that's happened, she's obviously not going to give in to feelings very easily, but Janso is near her the most. He's the most, you know,
I don't want to say loyal. That's not the word.
He's
friendly, I guess.
He's so unusual to her, basically. She's just not had that before, and it's probably the most intriguing to her. It's something she can't find that she can't not like, and it's the most, you know, surprising and new to her.
I think that might have been something in why she liked Garrett too, because I remember which episode was it?
Because he's not an asshole, right?
I think it was the last episode where they were like about to kiss when Jan's watching, and
she was like other men do,
that, and he was like what? And she said, like, all the other men look at me. I think it was more playful, but it was like it was the truth. Like, I mean, Garrett probably thought she was pretty, but he didn't look at her like a piece of meat. And when he saw how she fought, he treated her like an equal, which is something I'm sure she didn't get a lot.
Yeah, he saw a warrior first, and I think in that moment, you know, people were kind of mad at him for it, but I'm like, okay, like, he was dying, and Gwyn is not there right now, and like he said, Gwyn did not order him to keep his distance, and Gwyn, if anything, Gwyn just said to Talon that she was okay with it. So if she had any discussion with Garrett, it would be, I love you, and you love me, and you're dying, so don't feel bad about liking her too. You know what I mean? That's what I feel like Gwyn would say.
Yeah, I agree.
And I feel like Talon also knows that, and I feel like she kind of just, she wanted it, but she also was kind of scared, and she didn't know if it was the right time. And also she was a kind of like, I don't know, she just didn't know how to feel about it. But definitely when she was like, don't look at me like other men do, it honestly almost felt to me like an excuse. Does that make sense? It almost felt strange for her to say that.
Because she didn't say it in an angry way. Like, the way Jessica played it was that it was like...
It was like she was trying to find a reason for herself.
It was like that. And I think it was her looking for an excuse for Garrett to be obvious and to make the move, so she wouldn't be the one to do it and upset Gwen, possibly. Like, he would be the one doing it. You feel me?
Yeah, but like also the way that she pulled back, but she went and cuddled with Janso, but like the way she said it's not just to make him mad. So like, yeah, it's kind of to egg him on and make him think.
Oh, but she did say something yeah. What the hell was it? Oh, it was that she actually was cold, like that.
Yeah, that was a joke. But like,
I don't think that was the Tanzo moment. I think that was her just kind of being a little bit of a dick, even though she likes him.
But yeah, it was like I feel like she was like
acting, because that feels like a Talon move.
It feels like she was killing two birds with one stone, basically. Like she basically had two dudes there that she liked, and she was like, "Who am I gonna cuddle? Maybe not the dying dude, first of all, who's about to turn into a zombie. I definitely shouldn't kiss him, but I am gonna make him think about kissing me by like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. I feel like she just just because she used that, you know, to multiple advantages doesn't mean that she didn't enjoy cuddling with Jinzo, for sure. Like,
I asked you something about Gwen, and I don't remember what the question was now. Fuck, what was it? I've written it down.
But I definitely feel like, I hope, you know, like at the very least, they've definitely heard us, you know, the cast, like they've definitely noticed that we, you know, we feel a lot of like a good basis for polyamory here, and at the very least, they're not like grossed out or weirded out by it, which is all I can really ask for at the end of the day. You know what I mean? Is them to be like, to like my tweets and be like, that's cool. Like,
not playing it in a love triangle way.
Yeah, that is so
triangle. Gwen and Talon would not be friends at the end of the day. Like, there's no way in hell the two of them would get drunk together in a bar while Gwen knows that Talon likes Garrett.
Unless, you know, it was from a point where, you know, Gwen feels like she's not, you know, she definitely does. I feel like Gwen is the most self-knowing of all the people in this. She knows herself the most. She knows what she wants the most. And I feel like because of that, she understands other people more than they understand themselves sometimes. You know what I mean? She's very emotionally intelligent, I think. She, like, because Janto avoids people. Garrett's a soldier. He's a little bit dumb. And Talon's traumatized. Like, Gwen is the one who understands, and, like, she's basically, like, her feelings are all she has the most of, you know? And, like, you can see her emotional intelligence comes from Calcazar and what they've went through together and how they had forgiven each other. Because there's no way that they didn't have a lot of dark feelings harbored between them, because, you know, her, you know, like, they're basically the last that's left from that massacre, and he had his daughter killed, her best friend, and her best friend's life is hanging over her head, his daughter, you know, like, but we saw them at a point where they had totally put that behind them, basically, you know what I mean? They,
like a father, yeah.
Yeah, they had a total understanding of each other on a very, you know, intimate way, and I feel like that's where Gwen comes to this understanding that, yeah, she totally sees that Garrett and Talon have this chemistry going on, but she also sees and feels, at the very least, you know, first of all, that hasn't, you know, that's what I like about the show, is her and Garrett, you know, their little breakup had nothing to do with Talon. She was a little bit afraid, but then she figured out it didn't. It has to do with his fear. You know what I mean? And him, you know, like she felt, you know, and had affirmed, you know, multiple times that he loves her, that he is devoted to her, but he feels like he's not good enough for her, like he can't be with her forever. So you know, so like she feels like that's a load of bullshit, which I like about Gwen. I like that she seems to recognize that all these rules society has are a bunch of bullshit, and that what people feel is what matters the most, and being honest to themselves and their feelings, and not letting, you know, society make people lie to each other and to themselves, because she already has to live with so many lies. She's not going to lie about how she feels, right?
What do you think about the scene where, like, the one you're talking about, where, like, Gwen says that she wants to be with Garrett, and Garrett has, like, a moment to himself where he's like, is this what I'm fighting for a queen?
That was one of my favorite conversations, because that reminded me of what Jake responded to my question on Instagram. I was like, what's his biggest flaw? And he was like, he sees the world in black and white, in right and wrong, which isn't always, you know, how things work.
That definitely makes me feel better about it, because I thought it was a little out of character for Garrett, or at least in terms of, like, being devoted to her.
If anything, that is the base of his character.
Yeah, but thinking about that flaw, and then, like, how he reacts in the rest of the context, it makes a lot more sense.
Like, if anything, he wasn't questioning her, he was questioning himself.
Yep.
Obviously her feelings for him are, you know, not something that's bad, but he feels like he's being selfish. Like, he is the reason she has to choose something that he thinks might not be the right choice, because he's so used to the way society is supposed to be, right? But she's like, but she's like, are we fighting to restore a completely antiquated set of ideals? No.
Nope, we're fighting for freedom.
So she's looking at you know, basically she's had this burden put on her from such a young age, not only of all that death, but like, you are going to change the world. It is your responsibility. Your life is meant to change the face of this freaking planet, basically.
What did she say to Talon? That they both have, like, a destiny that
the death of them. Yep. Yeah, so she feels so burdened by this, and she feels like she wasn't born of the gods or whatever, right? But her only way to reconcile that is to think, well, if I'm really gonna build a new society from scratch, it's gonna be a goddamn good one.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not gonna put up with this bullshit where you think I have to marry some dude that I do not love.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like she doesn't. I feel like her heart wants to get rid of royalty altogether. I feel like she doesn't even believe in this. Like, that was another interesting moment when Garrett was like, "You're born of the gods," and she's like, "That's fucking bullshit. That doesn't make any sense, Garrett."
I think she really has respect for all people, no matter who they are or where they come from. Like, I mean, we see it obviously with Talon.
And her relationship with Lily.
Treats her relationship with Lily, yeah.
Lily was her best friend.
You were talking about how she's like the most emotionally intelligent of the bunch, and I immediately thought of the scene where they introduce her as Rosamund to the entire encampment,
and she remembered them
specifically to those two men who worked in the castle. It was able to say their names and remember who they were and talk about
in the garden and you worked in the stables or whatever the other one was. People that a princess generally wouldn't even think of, but here she has that emotional connection.
She has always loved the common people.
Yep.
And literally, she loves the common
people. She would just be like people.
She feels like she's one of them. And that's, what I love about her in the bar. She was basically trying to live her life. She was basically having a party and dancing on tables as like her last night of freedom. You know what I mean? And now she's locked in that tower and she feels trapped. And I'm like,
last night on Earth, what are your plans? I'm gonna get drunk as hell and dance on a table. What?
And then sleep with Talon.
Yeah.
Big mood. Congratulations. You know what we need? You know what we need to complete that cinematography trend that I feel like we're missing out on is a scene where Talon and Gwen are about to kiss and Garrett comes in between them. We need that. We need that. It's only fair.
Story balance here. This
literally narrative balance.
Yeah, that's
narrative balance.
We need it. That's really be the rule of three. 3 times. This is it. That would be it. Repetitive 3 sequences. I need that.
God, we need that. We need that a lot. We definitely need that. I've been thinking about it ever since that, because that the first scene I definitely noticed when Talon came right in between them, right? The blocking I noticed when Gwen and Garrett kiss, they pull away, she's right in between them, and I was like, oh no, a love triangle, ugh. Right? But then when Garrett and Talon are and then Gwen's in between them, I'm like, this is getting interesting. I'm like, I am intrigued. Let's keep going with this. But I like it because it's not typical. It's not emotionally unintelligent. It's emotionally realistic. Mm-hmm. Because the most emotionally unintelligent myth that plagues monogamous culture, and I think is the root cause of cheating, in my opinion, because my family was broken up by cheating, and I hate cheaters. You know what I mean? I literally hate them almost too much. It's probably my biggest flaw is that I hate cheaters so much that I almost am blinded by it when it comes to watching stories, and that's why I will not watch Jessica Jones. It's because I just don't. I can't. You know what I mean? I don't watch plot lines with any sort of I can't. I don't like it. I hate that stuff. You know what I mean?
I don't remember what happens in Jessica Jones.
There's 2 lesbians, but they're cheating, and I'm like, I don't want to watch this.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. All I remembered was Jessica Jones and I don't remember anything else.
It's the annoying trope of the cheating lesbians, and I'm like, every time I try to watch a show. Also, why I stopped watching the Bold Type, because it made me uncomfortable. So that's why this show doesn't make me uncomfortable. It's obvious that everyone kind of likes each other, but it's not hurting each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's more realistic. It's more it might hurt each other, but they're not trying to hurt each other. You know what I mean? And they're not I hate this. The thing about it is if you go into life with the assumption that you're only ever allowed to even feel feelings of an inkling of feelings for one person, or you're a horrible person, that instantly comes with some really messed up stuff, because the minute you start feeling something else, if you're living under that assumption, you already think you're a horrible person, and you already resign yourself to lying in order not to be, you know what I mean? Like, there's this, if you assume that, you assume that if you do feel that, you're not only a horrible person, but that you need to never tell anyone about it, which seems to be the root of the problem, in my opinion. You know what I mean? Like, open communication is, like, a really valuable thing in relationships. And, like, I'm not saying that, like, I feel like I'm not saying that every cheater is someone who's just, like, misunderstood. But I feel like it would be less of a, a huge problem. And even, like some guys treat it like a cool trend. You know what I mean? To have side hoes or whatever. But, like, I feel like it would be a lot less prevalent if people actually talked about their feelings. You know what I mean?
It's just everyone will be polyamorous in your world.
No, I'm not saying everyone will be poly. I'm just saying.
I'm joking.
I'm literally just saying that people, if monogamous people talk to each other, they might stay monogamous. You know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. Like, it's their problem, not mine. It's their problem, not mine.
I mean, I'm here for the world becoming ancient Greece. It's fine. Let's go.
Hey,
I mean, there literally is. There is literally scientific evidence that we did not evolve to be monogamous, and we're just faking it. We're literally faking it. We saw some birds that mate for life, and we were like, oh, we should do that, right? No, that's not how we evolved. Monkeys don't do that. Only certain apes do that, not us. We're chimpanzees. We don't do that. We don't. They were fucking everyone.
They started talking about ancient Greece, Shay, if you were wondering. She because she had looked over at me like, what kind of crack are you on?
I like the emotional intelligence of this show that, just even saying that she chose a monogamous relationship, I like that she goes into it not being bound to feeling horrible for feeling any other feelings besides that potential relationship. Because if anything, it would be more meaningful for her to choose that relationship and commit to it if she's being open about how she really feels, right? Like, if she actually feels multiple feelings for someone, but she decides to be with one person, that is the commitment that should be treasured, not this lie that we're looking for the one and that we can only ever like the one. Like, that seems just so dumb. It's so dumb, guys. It's so dumb. Like, monogamy isn't dumb. I swear to God. It's a good thing if it's done right. But, like, I feel like people are just hurting themselves. And I like that Talon, is at least, she's not, like, not letting herself feel her feelings for Garrett, but she's more open with Janzo because Janzo is obviously, one, not in a relationship, and two, she feels safer with. So I definitely would prefer if she chose anyone, Janzo, for sure. Like, if she had to choose someone, it's Tanzo, because for sure that's who she instantly felt like she was safest with, who she connected with on a level where she could actually allow herself to express it. But I definitely would like if we could have the OT3 or 4. I feel like we can't have. That's why I feel like we have to have the OT4 though, because, like, yeah, the OT3 has a lot of, like, build up and narrative, symmetry, but we could extend that to Janzo, not that hard. And Janzo's relationship with Talon alone is so great that we need to preserve it. I would hate to lose it, and it doesn't need to negate anything else. You know what I mean? And also, like, Janzo's relationship with Gwen is something I want to build on because, like, it seems like they actually have a lot in common. You know what I mean? They're only. It's almost a tragedy to
ask about that because, like, I feel like in terms of an OT4, the hardest people to connect would probably be Gwen and Janzo, and they don't really interact that much. And the one time they really interacted was when Garrett was dying and Gwen was.
And Janzo was having, like, a fallout. Like, I feel like literally. I feel like Janzo, like, because of all the stress that was happening and the stuff with his mom and the way Gwen almost looks like his mom, you know what I mean? And he sees her in the tavern all the time, doing whatever she wants. He's almost also jealous of her. And so he also has that vindictive, the way he was like, my lady. Like, he also has that kind of bitter, jealous, like, I instantly don't like you because I think you're better than me and I hate it. Like, he has that kind of thing.
I also got a thing against her because of what she drags Talon into.
Yeah.
Remember the bar scene when they were gambling with the cards?
He seemed jealous that they were spending time together, at least. He like,
did not look happy.
he definitely has this jealous, like, vindictive streak to him. It's kind of, I like it, but also I'm like, you need to chill a little bit.
I don't see enough balance to pull off an OT for, like you said, Gwyn and Janzo barely interact, much less connect.
But here's the thing. Here's the misconception that I think we're stumbling on here is that every single person in a polyamorous relationship needs to be in a romantic relationship with each other. That's not how it works.
You're talking like, okay, now I get it. Never mind, we're fine.
I'm not saying the OT4 has to be completely interconnected. Like, Janzo could have, you know, not even platonic yet relationships with Gwyn and Garrett, but still also be in a romantic relationship with Talon, you know what I mean? If anyone can have more than one relationship, and if anyone deserves it, it's Talon. Her entire village is dead. Let her have a new village. God. You know what I mean? Like, let her have another tribe.
Let her make a new village.
Yeah, let her collect some other people. Like, just let her do it. They'll get along for her. Like, but you know what I mean? And that's almost the most interesting part of when you actually read polyamorous media, which is so hard to find. But once you actually get your hands on it, you know, the most interesting part is, like, I think one of my favorite stories was, like, this chick had 3 husbands, I think. And the husbands didn't really like each other at first, but they like, you know, they all love her. But I think these two of them fell in love eventually. And, like, she was like, that's great. You know, but, like, basically they went into it like they were just friends and they were both, you know, married to this woman. But eventually, you know, over time spent with people, things happen. So I'm not saying that, like, everything has to happen right away, exactly interconnected in a perfect symmetry.
Mm-hmm.
That's not how life works, for one thing. But I'm just saying that their relationships with each other definitely don't have to contradict completely. You know what I mean?
Oh, well, human interconnection, polyamory or not, is so complicated like that.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like you go out and it's like, well, I have a crush on one person. My crush quota is full. I can no longer
That's exactly
crush.
what I mean.
Like,
That's exactly what I mean. Like, so like, you know, like, you can't, and not all of your feelings are at the same time of the same degree and or feel the same. You know what I mean? Like, you can be, like, in a relationship with someone that's super deep and committed, and then you have, like, a tiny puppy dog crush on someone else. And I'm not, you know, deflecting my own personal problems right now or anything. But don't make fun of me, Maggie. I have problems.
It was me in my last relationship, but with John.
Oh, me. I thought somehow I told you that I was having problems, and I'm like,
well, you did now.
Yep.
I'm gonna question.
It's not even a problem because I've, like, the thing is, like literally I've talked with my girlfriend and we're like, it's fine if we ever, like, develop. But, like, the thing about me is that, like, I've only ever had a real crush once before, and that is her. And so, like, whenever I have feelings about something, I can't figure out for, like, a month. You know what I mean? I'm like, is this just friendship? Or do I?
You're that meme, the guy with the butterfly. Is this a feeling?
That's literally me. That's me. You should have seen me when I first realized that I was in love with my girlfriend. I had a breakdown, and I think I ran 6 blocks down this freeway.
Kira.
What?
Run from the feels. No.
Yeah. Which is why I relate to Talon, because, like, she struggles with her. You can tell. That's why she was so mad that one time she tried to make a move on Janzo and he was like, I gotta go because of pigeon poop. And she was like, what the fuck? I just got myself ready to make a move on you. Do you know how hard this is for me? My boyfriend just died in my arms, like, a week ago. Jesus. And then you leave. And then the funniest part of that is when Garrett comes up behind her and is like, never do that again. And she just turns around calmly, like, sorry, I didn't see you there. That's the most polyamorous thing I've ever heard in my life. Coming out of her. Like, as far as her dialogue, her saying, sorry, I didn't see you there to Garrett was one of the funniest things I've ever heard. Because it's implying that, like, oh, I would have restrained myself only in your presence. Otherwise, no. You can fuck off. You can deal with it. I love her. Because, like, she doesn't let anyone else, it's like she doesn't let anyone else define or control her feelings, basically. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. She's having a trouble with them, but she's also owning them. She's like, I'm going to do what I want. So
Oh yeah, she's still, despite all the people she's like pulling into her circle now, a super independent person.
I love it. I love her and Janzo so much though because they
too much.
I love them. I literally like that's why I started writing fanfiction. I was like, I need to write some Janzo fic.
I need to read your fic. I saw you post it.
It's not very long. It's like basically just like 3 drabbles tied together. 3 like
I have
spurts.
my reading material for tonight instead of reading my homework.
Good. Yo, we're 30 minutes over. I didn't even realize.
I didn't know what your usual length time
We
was.
usually go for like an hour, but like this is fine.
Oh, yeah, you did like an hour, 20 minutes. So
it's because we've been, we had a good discussion. I think we covered like these are the topics that we don't get to really talk in depth about, like shipping and stuff and like cinematography is stuff we don't get to really talk about in depth, or else we would look, like we're ignoring the actual show when we're doing like a stream after an episode. But during the hiatus, that's exactly what we can talk about. We can be like, we can be really out there, because it's, it's what we want. It's what we think about the show. It's,
and you can also just take time to discuss literature or cinematography or filmmaking in general, because no offense, we don't have a lot of new content during a hiatus.
And no one's watching this. Like, I don't care. It's just us at this point.
Is it just us? Love that.
We usually have more viewers, don't worry.
This is just us having a conversation and live streaming it for no one to watch.
It's my life. To pick up viewers afterward, I've noticed, like,
especially these hiatus streams.
Yeah, hiatus streams are kind of slow
because everyone's like, "What's going on? What?"
Yeah,
we should probably.
He was like, "No, there's no new episodes. I see fans are getting up to stuff."
Yeah, as usual. They're like, at least the fans are alive. I feel like they're really shook that we came so hard so fast, and I'm not even gonna like hold back when I say that I feel like a lot of that has to do with the fact that that's what I wanted from the first time I heard about the show. Yeah. But the thing is, I'm so glad that people responded to me. I was so worried because I was planning on this all summer, and I was so worried I'd come in running and I'd be like, "Come on, guys, let's go," and nobody would care, right? So I'm glad that I actually got a response when I yelled into the void.
And boy, was it a void when it started. No offense. I love this crew. I love this show. The first night the show aired, there were like 3 people replying. It was like you and me and some random person.
And a few people being like, "This looks like shit."
Yeah.
They're like, "This is horrible."
Like, there were maybe total 5 people commenting on the first night. So it was like, well, you get a lot of engagement from the crew. That's for damn sure. Like,
and I couldn't even live tweet the first few times because of my freaking app.
Yep.
So I was like, I'm so sad.
I don't remember if I live tweeted the first episode.
I feel like you did.
Probably did. I didn't make my account until you made this podcast.
Anyway,
I think I did post first episode.
I've been on here for a while. I have to get going. I wish y'all the best of luck.
Yeah, I figured we should start the podcast.
Yeah. Let's do that.
Okay, bye guys.
Bye guys.
Bye.